that the president did not condition either security assistance or a meeting on anything. The paused security assistance funds aren't even mentioned on the call. Second, President Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials have repeatedly said that there was no quid pro quo and no pressure on them to review anything. Third, President Zelensky and high-ranking Ukrainian officials did not even know the security assistance was paused until the end of August, over a month after the July 25 call. Fourth, not a single witness testified that the president himself said that there was any connection between any investigations and security assistance, a presidential meeting, or anything else. Fifth, the security assistance flowed on September 11, and a presidential meeting took place on September 25, without the Ukrainian government announcing any investigations. Finally, the Democrats' blind drive to impeach the president does not and cannot change the fact, as attested to by the Democrats' own witnesses, that President Trump has been a better friend and stronger supporter of Ukraine than his predecessor.
I'd say if I had to choose the biggest point of vulnerability in the Trump team's central defense of the president, it's that every single element is an easily debunkable lie. But yeah, no, other than that, they seem super strong. This is Deputy White House Counsel Michael Purpura wheeling off a list of falsehoods to defend the president. And it brings into full display the White House's strategy here, that they're not going to even bother defending Trump on the merits, they're simply going to lie. They're going to pretend in broad daylight that ironclad facts don't exist and just try to will their lies into existence by simply repeating them with confidence. And while they might be convincing Trump and his most diehard supporters who think that his hysterical Twitter feed is actual news, that's likely where the persuasion ends. Right off the bat, Purpura claims that the call transcript shows no link between the probe into Biden and security assistance or a presidential meeting, but this is a lie on so many levels. First of all, the summary of the call between Trump and Zelensky does refer to the idea of reciprocity. Trump literally says the United States has been very, very good to Ukraine, a clear reference to military assistance. It's not like we're giving them free iPhones here. Of course it's about the money we give them. He continues, I wouldn't say that it's reciprocal necessarily because things are happening that are not good, but the United States has been very, very good to Ukraine. In other words, we give you money and we're not getting anything from you. At which point, conveniently, Trump does have something that could make this a more balanced relationship. He asks for an investigation into some DNC server conspiracy and then, of course, for them to open an investigation into the Bidens. And by the way, if that's not enough for you, we have Gordon Sondland, a first-hand witness under oath testifying that yes, there was a quid pro quo.
I know that members of this committee frequently frame these complicated issues in the form of a simple question. Was there a quid pro quo? As I testified previously, with regard to the requested White House call and the White House meeting, the answer is yes. Mr. Giuliani conveyed to Secretary Perry, Ambassador Volker, and others that President Trump wanted a public statement from President Zelensky committing to investigations of Burisma and the 2016 election. Mr. Giuliani expressed those requests directly to the Ukrainians, and Mr. Giuliani also expressed those requests directly to us. We all understood that these prerequisites for the White House call and the White House meeting reflected President Trump's desires and requirements.
I mean, even Trump's own chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, himself admitted that there was a quid pro quo.
But to be clear, what you just described is a quid pro quo. It is funding will not flow unless the investigation into the Democratic server happened as well.
We do that all the time with foreign policy.
So the White House can go back to their greatest hits and pretend that there was no conditionality between military assistance and investigations, but the only people willing to actually go under oath and testify to that say otherwise. Purpura says that Ukrainians have said that there was no pressure on them, a reference to this moment.
I think, and you read it, that nobody pushed me. Yes.
In other words, no pressure.
Only that's like someone in a hostage video telling you that everything is fine while a gun is pointed to his head. Ukraine is at war with Russia. They rely on the military assistance that the United States gives. The last thing that Ukrainian President Zelensky needs is to publicly incriminate Donald Trump and risk the hundreds of millions of dollars of military assistance that Trump's government controls while they're trying to contend with an enemy that has already invaded and annexed part of their country. So of course the guy isn't going to throw the pettiest world leader on the planet under the bus while his sole priority is to protect his own people from Russia. Purpura claims that Ukraine didn't know the security assistance was paused until more than a month after the call, but that's not true. In reality, Ukraine knew the aid was being withheld by early August, only days after the July 25th call. Not only that, but Ukraine knew about the freeze while Giuliani was in Ukraine, trying to strong-arm Zelensky into making the public announcement of a probe into Biden. In other words, it was crystal clear that their essential aid was hanging in the balance, and crystal clear what Trump wanted in return. And in fact, the Ukrainians were told that they should reach out to Mick Mulvaney to address the issue. If only there was a way to hear from him. Purpura said that not a single witness said Trump linked investigations to military assistance, and you could not have asked for a better setup for the Democrats, because in effect, what Trump's team just did is give the most compelling argument for why the Senate should call witnesses. There are people who would know one way or the other whether this point was true, but it's Republicans who are currently blocking them from appearing. So if they're truly relying on the defense that no one could prove that Trump linked a Biden probe to military aid, then actually be willing to prove that defense by allowing people with knowledge of it to appear, as opposed to hiding them and then claiming exoneration by virtue of the absence of evidence that literally exists. Purpura says that Ukraine still received the security assistance, so it's all good. Only the reason they received the assistance is because Trump got caught. The Trump administration only released the aid on September 11th because on September 9th, literally 48 hours earlier, the House Intelligence Committee received the whistleblower report that accused Trump of doing exactly what he had done. The same report that Attorney General Bill Barr had been trying to bury. The White House knew exactly what they were doing, which is why the moment they realized that they'd been exposed, they desperately tried to cover their tracks, of course making them look even guiltier. And beyond all of that, the Government Accountability Office even said that the administration broke the law, violating the Impoundment Control Act with their failure to release the aid as allocated by Congress on time. And look, we can go on, but what this all shows is simple. The White House's only defense is to lie with such frequency and shamelessness that hopefully they can muddy the waters and obfuscate the facts in order to confuse everyone. That if they can't tell the truth, at least they can obscure it enough so that everyone watching won't know what to believe. It's the same Orwellian fever dream by the right that they've relied on since day one of this administration. To demonize the press so that their accurate and often damning reporting would be undermined from the start. The problem for them is that the facts are right out in the open. That in the few instances we did hear from administration officials, they themselves have admitted to the crimes that are in question here. So the White House can continue to mount defenses so fragile that a gust of wind can knock them over, but they're just proving why Trump should be impeached in the first place. Because he is incapable of telling the truth and his corruption knows no bounds.